Okay, good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today to present our work titled "The Critical Analysis of a Journal Article." So first of all, let me briefly introduce our group. We are Group 6, as you can see in this calendar, consisting of all four members. And I'm the first speaker. My name is Xu Jiaying. And we have another member, Wu Ruiyi, Duan Wenbo, and Wang Shiyi. So we are all from China, and today our presentation will focus on the topic of sport management. Specifically, we are looking at four research papers that explore how traditional Chinese men's body practice, Qigong and Taiji contributed to stroke rehabilitation and overall health improvement. So, those studies investigate different aspects of recovery and prevention, from improving physical balance and mobility to enhancing emotional well-being and over sleep equality. And by reviewing them together, we can see how traditional Eastern exercise are becoming increasingly recognized within evidence beside the Eastern rehabilitation framework. And now, so I will show you now. We have divided this presentation into 8 parts. Let's first look at the title of 4 studies. So we can see here the first title of Article 1 is 八段锦 Qigong Improve Balance, Leg Strength and Mobility in Patients with Chronic Stroke Randomized Controlled Trial. And the second one is Effect of Qigong Exercise on Neurological Function and Life Quality in Stroke Patients, Systematic Review and Mental Analysis. The second one is efficacy of Taiji and Qigong for the prevention of stroke and stroke risk factors. A systematic review with mental analysis. And the last one, an RCT mental analysis beside on the factor of Taiji exercise, certify of the outcomes of elderly patients with moderate to severe sleep disorders, some systematic review study. So what can we say according these 4 titles? Okay, overall, the article title should be concise, specific, neutral, important, constantly, and easy to read clearly, indicating the intervention, subjects, variables, and the mass of the research. So we can see here the first title improves. Actually, academically, it is recommended to use neutral expression. And the last one, it's over 20 words. The information destiny is high and somewhere redundant. Okay, move to the second part. I will show all the abstract here of these 4 parts and highlight some main idea. So what can we see here? They summarize, use clear language to demonstrate that Qigong and Taiji are comprehensive, low cost, and sustainable health intervention measure. Providing readers with an overview of the main research and the result of the paper. However, the summary is overly elaborated on the problem background rather than the results, and the tone lacks naturality. Well, okay. So we will enter the part 1. The part 1 include introduction and statement of problem. About the introduction, I also show here as before. So we just look the analysis here. All those 4 introductions share a common assumption. Recovery should not only be limited to psycho or to physical aspect, but also include the mental aspect, also the cycle. psychology cycle, then use this as a starting point, reprocessed by applying the problem theory research approach. However, during the explanation progress, there is insufficient theoretical depth and a lack of theoretical models. So we will enter the last part, statement of problem. Overall, we can see here in all those four statements of the issue, we can observe constant patterns. The critical medical system often neglect those holistic intervention measure that can integrate the body and the mind and are cost effective. The problem lies in the fact that most of those statements are general in nature, without providing specific data or statistical evidence. Now, clear distinguish between the main research question and the secondary questions. Okay, so I finished my speech right now, and I will pass it over to my teammate. He will continue with the next chapter. Okay, thank you. Welcome, Shi.
Hello, everyone. Qigong and Tai Chi are affordable and effective ways to improve both physical and mental health, but they are still not widely used in today's health care systems. The goals of these studies are good, but there are still a lot of room to improve, especially in how the research is designed, interpreted, and applied in real life. Even though the studies reference plenty of supporting articles, they don't really discuss the weakness or limitations in those.
All right, let's move on to the research methodology section. For first article, the study adopt quantitative analysis. They used experimental design that involved two groups of stock servers, one practicing 八段锦 Qigong and the other following standard rehabilitation routine. But the criteria for inclusion, the subjects are not adequately described. The second article conducted a systematic review and meta-analysis, gathering evidence from multiple studies on Qigong's effects on non-motor outcomes, such as mood, sleep, and emotional regulation. There are applied rigorous inclusion criteria to ensure only high-quality trials were considered. All right. Okay. Let's move on to the third article. The researchers also used a systematic review approach, examining Taiji and Qigong effects on stroke prevention. They analyzed clinical and community-based study focusing on risk factors like blood pressure and glucose level. However, the research measured was too general and failed to emphasize the nature, process, and the standard of the measured. All right, let's look at on the full article. This article conducted a meta-analysis on Taiji, but the methodology section of this paper merely states using Raman 5.3, but does not explain the random forced effects model, the heterogeneity nonlinearity threshold, nor does it mention to the sensitive analysis or publication bias test. Next, research finding. Research finding overall is result tended to report significance rather than clinical significance.
Okay, so thank you, and let's move on to the discussion and conclusion sections. So for the discussion part, all 4 papers interpret their findings through holistic and neuropsychological perspectives. So Wang and so on explain that 八段锦 Qigong improves neuromuscular coordination by combining slow motion with focused breathing, which stimulates neuroplasticity. They emphasize that the meditative aspect helps manage stress and supports motivation during recovery. And John and so on actually link Qigong's emotional and cognitive benefits to mindfulness theory. They propose that Qigong enhances self-awareness, emotion regulation, and overall resilience. The authors suggest that integrating Qigong into rehabilitation could significantly reduce post-stroke depression. And about Li and so on, they frame Tai Chi and Qigong as public health interventions. They argue that these practices can complement medical treatment by promoting self-care and lifestyle modification. The discussion emphasizes the cost-effectiveness of integrating such exercises into community health programs. And lastly, the Chen and so on interpret Tai Chi's impact on sleep as evidence of improved function and emotional stability. They also discuss how group practice offers social support, further enhancing in psychological well-being. So when we consider all these discussions together, a clear theme emerges. Qigong and Tai Chi operate on both physical and psychological dimensions. They strengthen the body, calm the mind, and promote overall wellness through mindful movement and self-awareness. However, there are still some limitations. The discussion are mostly rephrasing of the results, lacking in-depth explanations and theoretical derivations. So in the first article, it provided the relatively favorable evidence for the rehabilitation effect of 八段锦, but the transparency and generalizability of the method still need to be improved. The discussion on limitations often remains superficial, including issues such as small sample size, inconsistent duration of intervention, and low quality of measurement samples. So there are no specific practical suggestions or future research directions provided so far. So that's that. And about the references part. So the references are concentrated between 2010 and 2022. There are some domestic and foreign literature, such as combined Chinese and English review type studies. However, the main literature is mainly concentrated in China and East Asia regions, with relatively less research from the Western side. On the other hand, although the number of the references is large, their timeliness is not high enough, and there is a lack of research data from 2022 to 2025. So finally, there are no theoretical model literature supporting the intervention mechanism of Tai Chi. So all the references are illustrated as we can see in the PowerPoint so far. And about the language style, for the first article, the concise sentence structure in the first article is the characteristic of experimental report style, which is characterized by a strong emphasis on empirical evidence. And the second article use neutral language and rigorous expressions, but with high repetition and somewhat template-like style. And for the third article, it is the most mature in terms of language and the most rigorous in terms of logical among the four articles. It is a systematic review and highly specialized. And the sentence structure in the article 4 is complex and has an academic review style in its expression, leaning towards theoretical summaries and evidence evaluation. So overall, the four articles share a formal, objective, and technical academic style with cautious and impersonal tone, but their language tends to be overly rigid and descriptive, lacking critical depth and stylistic variety. So that's the research we have done so far. And yeah, that's basically it for the whole presentation. Thanks for your listening. And if you have any questions during the presentation, you can just ask us whatever you want. Please just leave a comment down below and we will be happy to answer all the questions. Thank you.